Thunderation opened in 1993 and is set to close at the end of the season. And we secretly hope a big restoration or a rebuild is coming. But either way, we had to visit Silver Dollar City and say goodbye.
There's so much fanfare surrounding the closure of this ride. There's like brand new theme elements in the queue and at the entrance of the ride, highlighting that the ride is being evicted. Like they have these sandwich board signs out, like pushed out to the midway because so many of Silver Dollar City's major rides are set in really far back. So they have these boards out to show people from the midway whether or not a ride is open. And Thunderation's little sandwich board sign has this whole bit about being evicted and the deed for the ride being handed off. So there's a lot. Like they have a lot to say about this ride.
Yeah, and there's a lot of signage. Like I said, there's like, oh, this is like the final explosion or the final
like a detonator.
Yeah, the final detonation kind of thing. Because of course it's a whole mine
park
thing.
Maps. It's all Thunderation is closing.
If they hadn't just done the whole fire in the hole rebuild completely, I wouldn't maybe think like this. But I'm thinking to myself, maybe they'll just build another Thunderation in the same spot.
Yeah,
and, they're doing so much fanfare. They everyone to ride it, and then everyone's gonna be sad it's closing, and then they build a new Thunderation, or maybe something similar in that regard, and then they're gonna announce it's like, oh my god, like Thunderation, the mine reopens or a new adventure, whatever they come up with.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's not the end of Thunderation, but it's probably the end of this particular Thunderation.
Yeah,
that way.
That's at the end of this iteration of Thunderation. I can remember riding it in 2009 when car 3 and car 5 of each train were turned backward. And as rough as it is now, it's still like it's wild to think back and imagine like riding this thing backward too, because that was gnarly. It was smoother back then, but it was like riding backward definitely compensated for how much smoother it was at the time.
It's almost hard to imagine that helix when it has that jolt looking at backwards.
Oh my god.
I mean, it sounds pretty sick, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
You're listening to an episode of Coaster Kings. And today's episode is all about Silver Dollar City, which we just visited on a larger road trip, which we did Six Flags Great America, Lost Island, Adventureland, Worlds of Fun, and Six Flags St. Louis. Now, we already kind of talked about Six Flags Great America in a recent episode called 1 Week, 2 Great America Parks. So definitely listen to that on Coaster Kings on your favorite podcasting platform. But today we're talking about Silver Dollar City, and it's kind of out of order because we did Silver Dollar City towards the end, right before Six Flags St. Louis. But today we're recording from a hotel room near Six Flags Magic Mountain because we have been working like crazy, and on our way home we decided to swing by Magic Mountain for my birthday. And so now it's late at night after we got our Viper and Tatsu rides in, and we had a nice dinner, and we figured, oh my god, we don't even have an episode ready for next week. Even though we got some stuff already planned, we didn't want to like only throw China at you. So we're going to talk about Silver Dollar City today in a little bit of a shorter format because just our day at the park, I think, won't take as much time. But the quality sounds a little different. We are recording not with our usual equipment, not in our usual spaces. So hopefully it all sounds all right. And then the other episodes will be recorded in a maybe like a more professional manner.
More standard.
Yeah. So Lost Island Adventureland is going to be next. We're going to do a little Iowa section. And of course, we got to do Worlds of Fun at Six Flags St. Louis. Lots to talk about. But today it's all about Silver Dollar City in the beautiful Ozarks. And I would say that we consider Silver Dollar City to be one of the, if not the best regional park in the U.S. Would you still agree with that? That's our most recent visit?
Every time I go there, it becomes exceedingly clear to me that Silver Dollar City is the one. Like, we love Dollywood, and there's lots of great regional parks in the United States. There's lots to love about parks like a park like Lagoon or Silverwood. Like, these kinds of parks are amazing, but like Silver Dollar City for us takes the cake. It gets me every time.
Now, as someone who like is really kind of I don't want to say I'm OCD. I don't think I'm qualified as such, but I do love an aesthetic, and I like when there's like a whole spark of an aesthetic. When I build my parks and Roller Coaster Tycoon, either I build very specific lands that are really large and one aesthetic, or I build a whole park one aesthetic. So Silver Dollar City is one park that's one aesthetic, and unlike Dollywood, they haven't quite gone over to the whole like fantasy forest thing yet. So there's still like, it's still the 1800s American boomtown, I guess, in the Ozarks kind of vibe, and everything is still that aesthetic. Everything is still, I mean, the Grand Exposition is about as colorful as it's gonna get, and that's all really clean and like Americana. So that alone for me carries a lot of weight, and the way that like every ride gets to stand alone in the end of its own midway in its own little area, and then still is really cohesively all kind of brownish. It doesn't, I don't know if I'm even selling it, but like it's just like a nice aesthetic. I feel like the overall experience of Silver Dollar City is cohesive, and it's really distinctly Silver Dollar City, and it's, yeah, I think I like that so much about it. It's a really nice overall experience.
Just from like walking in there, it really takes you to another place, and there's something so quaint and so transformative about approaching the ticketing area from the parking lot, and then you like zigzag your way, you know, up the walk through one of the gift shops, you know, where the entrance to the marble caves are, and then up into the park. Like I really feel like you are just transported somewhere else. It feels like this is the thing that like Epic Universe goes for when you pass through a threshold and you feel like you've been transported.
It's just hard to recreate that if it's not a naturally coming already, because Silver Dollar City is located like on a hilly terrain, so everything is up and down hills, and everything is kind of hidden behind the next, you know, I don't know, like cave, anything. So in a way, that kind of makes it fun. And Silver Dollar City and Dollywood have that kind of in common. Of course, Dollywood started off as not a Silver Dollar City theme park, that was then like Dollyfied.
And Dollywood's great.
Dollywood's great for sure, but Dollywood's
there's a bigness to Dollywood now.
Yeah, and Dollywood's kind of moved into more mainstream thematic experiences that, like, you know, like I said, I kind of like the fantasy forest kind of thing they're doing with Wildwood Grove. It's really cool, and it definitely suits Dollywood as a product, but the original aesthetic of Dollywood is slowly being evolved into something else. It's more Dolly, more colorful, more modern, as where Silver Dollar City just like hangs on that completely classic look and feel that so many parks in the world have tried to recreate. I mean, Fort Fun, I personally think it's very much inspired by Silver Dollar City, not to quite the extent, but, you know, Slagharen as a kid, like all these Wild West parks. When I think of all that, I think of like, well, Silver Dollar City like pulled it off because it's like almost like real life.
It's very authentic.
It's really authentic, and I enjoyed that so much.
Yeah, the modus operandi for Silver Dollar City is so intact. It is the same park that it has always been, just bigger and more.
Yeah,
they've never lost sight of.
I mean, the closest they've gotten
mission statement.
The closest they've gotten to maybe feeling a little out of reach to me is Time Traveler, where I'm like, okay, so I'm like, you know, some clocksmith, gone steampunker, you know, is in this little town of Silver Dollar City, is, you know, making time jumps. I almost found that too much of a stretch. I hope they don't go any further with anything like that, because to me that's already too much. But of course, I really love Time Traveler, but that is about as far as of a reach you're going to find there, and everything else is, I mean, Wildfire is like concoctions, you know, kind of like chemistry stuff. But I feel like that Wild West has always kind of had that.
There's a lot of like chemistry experiments happening at Silver Dollar City, because Powder Keg is kind
also
of the same way.
Like that. But then Powder Keg, I mean, like literally Powder Keg. I mean, it's the most Wild West best thing you can talk about.
I think the park just is so, for as many liberties as a lot of theme parks take with their own theming and like what makes a themed ride, I think Silver Dollar City is the most committed, and just everything that they do, somehow they manage to pull it off. They always manage to keep the park and the theme and the story front and center. They never sacrifice their identity for whatever they're building. And every time they build something, I feel like it is just the exact right thing for that park. I can't say the same for a lot of parks, but
You know what? In a way, I feel like it forces creativity because so you're shopping, right? And we don't, at the time of recording, it's only a few days before we're launching it. So hopefully within the next 2-3 days, they haven't suddenly announced what the new ride's going to be that they're building next to Powder Keg. But say it's going to be, I think people are rumoring it's a Mac, right? Or it's a rumor like a family coaster.
Family terrain coaster.
But say it's a family Mac, right? I would assume that they have kind of an idea of what the theme is going to be, but they're going to go look at a product that would kind of fit in their lineup. And then they're going to get creative and think about how is it going to fit into the park's theme and where is it going to fit in, like being next to the American Plunge.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to believe that by having this dedication to this theme and this aesthetic, they are kind of like forced to be creative with the design and storytelling that they're going to bring out to their next ride. So I'm really curious to see what they're doing. There's not much to really talk about. There's fooders, and it goes pretty far down, but behind Powder Keg, which so we'll say riding Powder Keg goes like, oh god, all the trees are gone.
That's where we started. That was how we started our day because Powder Keg, the weather forecast for our day was not good.
Not good at all.
And so Powder Keg, according to the Silver Dollar City website, Powder Keg is the one coaster in the park that cannot run in wet conditions. Everything else can run in the rain. Nothing can run in lightning except for Fire in the Hole.
And even then, I don't know how true it is because Thunderation would close down in the rain while Time Travelers is running. So one of Thunderation's also...
Thunderation, maybe now at this point in the game, Thunderation might be a little too rickety for them to take risks in the rain with all of its old pinch brakes and stuff. But yeah, so we went to Powder Keg first. We had 2 really great rides on it right as it opens. It's not one that you can necessarily rely on being open right away, but if you're in the park and you hear it dispatch, which there's a good chance because the SNS launch coasters are not quiet, they make themselves known. That was very true of Six Flags Great America, which
not funny. It's quiet as loud, but yeah, you can kind of
it's
tell. It's
definitely not as loud, but it's like
without being next to it, you can still tell.
Yeah, so we could hear it running from like the center of the park.
Also, I want to mention another reason they wanted to go there first is because last time we were there, it was only running one train. And it's not a high capacity ride. It's only 60 people per ride. And then like first you have to dispatch into a switch track. The switch track leads up to the launch track. You park for the launch. Then you do your launch. You do a roller coaster. Then you have a lift hill. And then another part of the roller coaster. So for there only to be 16 riders, that's not that many. So we were like, oh, well, at least get one out of the way. And of course, it's the most finicky weather-wise. So we did good. We rode it right off the bat. We rode it twice. And then we rode it a couple more times throughout the day. We kind of just ended up coming back to it.
We did get lucky with it.
So after we rode Powder Keg, we went straight to Outlaw Run. I don't even know exactly what the reason behind it was. Maybe because Outlaw Run is just a fun ride. And in the morning, you definitely don't have to wait. I think every single time we've gone, we've kind of done like, Powder Keg and then maybe Outlaw Run right after, because I feel like everyone goes to Time Traveler first thing, so we just go the other direction.
Yeah.
And then it kind of worked out because Outlaw Run, I mean, there's nobody there. We rode it twice right off the bat.
Fire in the Hole, the new Fire in the Hole was a priority for us because it's a new credit and also just an exciting new addition to the park. But because it's an indoor coaster, we weren't prioritizing indoor rides while the weather was good. So as far as like just rides go, we knew Outlaw Run was kind of our next priority, and it was, close to Powder Keg. It made sense. So we took the park basically in a clockwise direction, starting with Powder Keg, which was running great. Outlaw Run running great,
running pretty well. I mean, you can tell it's aging a little bit. I saw that the transitions between the track pieces were very noticeable this time. It was like
you could really hear it.
You can feel it too in your back. But I still love that ride. I think it was just a perfect fit for Silver Dollar City when they added it. I feel like every time Silver Dollar City adds something, I'm like, man, that's perfect.
Yes.
But it's just a perfect ride. It's so out there, you can't see the layout. And you know what? It was funny because every single time we go, and I think at this point we've gone 4 or 5 times. And sometimes multiple days.
We've been 5 times together.
And often we go several days too. We usually go 2 days per trip. This time it was just 1 day. But every time we ride, I feel like there's someone making a comment where like they didn't know there was an inversion. They did not know that it did like all that it did. And I think that's what's so great about it.
Because you
roll up and you think it's just a wooden coaster. And you get on that and you can't see the whole layout and you just like dive vertically into a ravine and then you have 3 inversions, crazy airtime.
The double barrel roll finale on that ride, I still think is just one of the most bonkers, off the wall, insane moments on a coaster. Like,
And I
just
feel like
crazy.
they were trying to. I feel like they were trying to hide that element off ride, because there's only very little part of queue that goes outside if it's used, which I've never seen that used. But there's like high covered fences that like you can't see through, and then from the midway it's not easy to see there unless you know what you're looking for.
I think like the marketing materials used a lot of the double barrel roll, but I think a lot of people, I think they let people decide how accurate it was. Like the double barrel roll just has such a great aesthetic, and I think the average person would look at it and see an embellishment and think, okay, like it looks like this, but it's not really gonna go upside down. It's just like a style choice to convey chaos. And then you ride it and it actually does it. It looks just like the advertisement. You come off of that thing like hair standing on end. Just a complete shock, especially for like 2013. I think now in this era, now 2026, I think more people would look at a coaster and assume the unassumable.
And I will say it's funny riding it in the same trip as Goliath at Sickers Great America and being like, yeah, I really wish this product line would have lived on, because I just love the Woodies. I love the Topper Tracks. I think they're best products, and are much more maintenance heavy than Steel Track. But man, they have such character to them.
So great.
They have such character to them.
I love them so much more than Iron Horse coasters, generally speaking.
Speaking of Iron Horse coasters, so the next ride that we did was practically Iron Horse coaster, which is Fire in a Hole. Now, Fire in a Hole obviously is very popular, so we actually had to wait maybe like a good 45 minutes for it. We waited outside. It was actually kind of hot. It was humid. That's why all those thunderstorms were coming in. It was just humid as hell. So we waited outside, and the queue was really nicely appointed. They did a really good job. It's almost kind of reminds you a little bit of Dollywood, like it's really polished. But it's Fireman's Landing, so it kind of works. And then the indoor queue is just a couple switchbacks. Ride itself, very much in the vein of the original. It just feels like slightly modernized, but I mean, you can tell that they're really trying to recreate it, because even all of it just kind of felt kind of like the original, except for the creepy people.
Yeah.
The creepy fire guys, whatever they're called.
Bald knobbers.
Yeah, those people were now like 3 distinct characters that were like unwanted notices and throughout the queue, so that people could familiarize themselves with the characters. And then on the ride themselves, they were a lot less intimidating. They were more like, like goofy fire, like goofy, what do you call people that put shit on fire?
Arsonists.
Goofy arsonists. And it was a little less intimidating in a way. That was refreshing, because I was always kind of scared by the old ones, but at the same time, that kind of creepy edge was kind of gone for me, because man, I was always so creeped out in that ride.
Yeah, you hated the
like, oh my god, it creeped me out. It kind of kept me scared.
I was impressed with how much they stuck to the original. I was expecting them to take more liberties with modernization, but for a majority of the ride, you could have told me that it was the original one. I wouldn't have known better. I wouldn't have been familiar enough with the old one to say otherwise. A lot of the scenes were really true to source material. So, which is good. I think that's exactly, they know what people want. They don't want a brand new, like polished Fire in the Hole. They want the old ride, but just in a new location with like updated mechanical components. So they really killed it with that.
It's a testament to how popular the ride has been, and it still is, because there was a crazy line for it, and they're running at least 2 trains. And the fact that they would invest the kind of money to just completely rebuild it instead of building something new. So that's interesting.
And a really nice change of pace for RMC. Like, just goes to show RMC is pretty versatile for a company that kind of gets pigeonholed for doing one thing well, which is the Iron Horse coasters. But like they've got a lot of potential. They can do a lot of things.
So next up, we headed to actual Thunderation. Rode that once because there was a line. Mm-hmm. It was a crazy line, but there was a line in the station, and everyone went one train. Yeah. So that actually took a while to get on. We rode in the back car and we sat in the front of the back car, so it was the most comfortable. I do enjoy that kind of seats. Those trains, to me, only really work in one seat per car, which is the front of a car, just because legroom is so much different than the rest. It ran fine to me. It doesn't feel to me like it's Dad, like on his last leg. I'm kind of like, oh man, like it doesn't feel, and it's also not even that old.
I mean, aero mine trains are so sturdy in general that like you would think logic would suggest that if the aero mine trains are going to start disappearing, it'll be the older ones that are more inclined to be demolished. But then again, the mine trains got steadily more ambitious for the most part.
Yeah, because Thunderation does do a lot.
This is one that it takes a toll on itself.
Because by the time you hit that helix, there's a lot of forces, and the track, of course, is kind of just pieced together on wood. And then there's a couple of pretty crazy jolts, and you have a lot of speed. And then even on a return to the station after the lift hill, there's a pretty steep, fast drop that goes into that swoop into the brakes. So all things considered, I can kind of see that maybe it's slowly rattling itself apart, but it doesn't feel to me like, let me put it this way, it can definitely make it until January 2027. Yeah. When it's supposed to close.
It makes sense that it's still perfectly functional and palatable, but yeah, once you hit the the underground part of the helix, like it feels like it's coming apart. Like there's probably some foundation stuff. They probably just need to put a lot of money into this ride to like fix it. So whatever they're actually doing, how much of the ride will be intact? Maybe none of it will be, but
I would kind of love to wake up to the announcement of like a complete rebuild of the same layout, but it's just a Vekoma mine train.
Because like Big Thunder Mountain at Magic Kingdom is getting complaints now because it's like too smooth. And a ride like Thunderation with the level of smoothness that you can now find on Big Thunder Mountain and Magic Kingdom would be perfect, because Thunderation's layout is so good, but some of those potholes are almost distracting. Like it's more of a distraction than I want from the good of the ride, which is the crazy great layout where you just dispatch out of the station and haul ass through 2/3 of the whole ride before you hit the lift hill. So hopefully the layout will remain intact, even if the track that we currently use does not.
So then we rode Time Traveler, and by the time we got to the station, we were boarding, and then suddenly there was an issue with the train, so we had to get off the train again, and it started pouring, raining pretty hard. And honestly, it was great because they, for some reason, kept running the ride. And so I will say the people that run in the brake run that couldn't get into the station because the train was broken, they were drenched because they were sitting in the rain for a while. But then eventually you start cycling through the rain, even though Thunderation was closed for weather and, of course, powder keg and stuff. And they were just running in the rain. So we got a couple rain rides in. And it was awesome because, first of all, the rain is an extra sensation, and it wasn't pouring that badly that we were just soaked. It was like, it was raining, but it wasn't like super crazy. So the nice thing is that when we got off the ride, there was no line, and nobody was really seemingly knowing that the rides were open, or in this case, Time Traveler. It's also Time Traveler is also impossible to see from the midway. So it's one of those things where like we actually just went back in line and we rode it a second time pretty quickly after, also in the rain. And that must have been our best ride on ever. We were spinning like crazy. That second ride, I think we were going
That was
crazy.
The one where we didn't have anyone behind us.
Yeah,
because they had so few people in line.
So we were spinning so good in the rain. It was kind of cold, but also kind of warm.
Yeah.
I still remember being like, what? Like, it was a really memorable ride. It was probably my favorite ride we had in that ride.
When we were riding this, we went during COVID 2020, and they were only loading the cars by half. And at the rides on Time Traveler that we got were so amazing because the weight was so unbalanced.
But then last time I went was already post-COVID.
Yeah.
Twice. And then those rides, of course, were a little bit less
normal rides, but still very good. And
then in 2021, before the most recent 3 visits to Silver City, we'd also done Time Traveler, not Time Traveler, Ride to Happiness. And that kind of, puts Time Traveler kind of in like a smaller place. Like it's not as grand as Ride to Happiness is, not as intense, not as large. I will say I like Time Traveler's aesthetic and setting better, but there's no denying that the layout on Ride to Happiness is absolutely insane. It's such a good ride. It's like the next X2, Yeah. So then Time Traveler just kind of feels like the family version of that, despite having a version of having airtime. But this time around, it really grew on me again. I really thought that, like, okay, Time Traveler is... Yeah, Time Traveler is
It renewed my fascination with this ride system, which is... We're finally seeing another installation in New Jersey, a Giga Coaster version with an upside-down launch that I'm so puzzled and delighted by the mad scientist wizardry happening with Project Purple, a great adventure.
I'm very curious about that.
Speaking of Mac Extreme Spinners.
So then we hit up Wildfire, which usually we hit up early in our visits because Wildfire is pretty high on our priority list. I love Wildfire. I'm a Wildfire fanboy. It was running one train, And it was kind of chaotic because it was the first time I ever had to wait for Wildfire. And they were doing the Trailblazer thing through the side door of the station. So that kind of made operations a little weird. And for some reason, I didn't love it as much this time.
Yeah, it wasn't running quite as well as it had in the past. This was the first time that like everything else that we rode in the park that day kind of felt like it overshadowed it.
Yeah.
Which is an opinion that I've heard expressed by people about Wildfire in the past. It just wasn't true for us because we were always such big fans of it. But yeah, for whatever reason this time, it just didn't feel like it was
I rode it
running
twice,
well.
and I was still like...
You rode it a third time, right? And I was waiting for American Plunge to reopen. That is a wet log flume. It's really wet. And so Sean, who has ridden it before, we agreed that you would take pictures of Wildfire and ride again while I did American Plunge.
And like I will say that, of course, the first drop is spectacular. Reviews are amazing. It's still like a really good ride, and I still love that after you do the giant Cobra roll, you kind of work your way back up to the station via the like upward course.
Very clever layout.
And downward helix. Like it's a cool layout. It's compact. It does things pretty well. But for some reason, I just wasn't vibing with it as hard. And like in the past, it was one of those things where like I would spend like hours riding Wildfire. Like I'm not even exaggerating. We'd be there for 2 long fall evenings when it opens like 9 or 10 p.m. There'd be nobody at the park. I don't know why they opened that late. And and then we would just be like, we get to Wildfire in the dark at some point, and we would just cycle it. We're like riding. And this time I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't really need to ride that again. Like, we ended up riding Powder Keg more, because then we went right back to Powder Keg after you rode American Plunge, sorry. And the rain finally stopped. They started, and the thunder stopped. They started cycling Powder Keg again. So we were just hanging out in Powder Keg, and we rode that again twice before getting Cinnamon Bread. Which you gotta have cinnamon bread.
That was really good.
Yeah. I will say that the vibe at the cinnamon bread store was like not really a vibe this time. I don't know what it was.
Not the same as in Dollywood.
Yeah.
Dollywood, the vibe at their cinnamon at the grist mill feels a little more.
Here it feels like a knockoff Starbucks that sells cinnamon bread also.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit sterile inside.
Maybe because the customer service was like really bleak in there. Like everywhere else, it was like so.
Everyone was so excited, and somehow these ladies selling the cinnamon bread just seemed
not vibing with.
They seemed very inconvenienced.
Yeah,
to be selling like the best theme park food.
Which is weird because I was like, I was hyped. I was like, great, like today we're gonna eat this. We're gonna eat the cinnamon bread. But you have to eat the cinnamon bread at Silver City and at Dollywood. But okay, we're gonna eat the cinnamon bread. We kind of planned out.
It was so good. It was perfect.
It's a perfect time to go get it. And then we get there and like. Nobody was enthusiastic to help us. It was like, oh, okay. My cinnamon bread enthusiasm is like dying.
Like, am I being judged? Are the cinnamon bread ladies judging me for being so excited to eat their bread?
I don't know. It was like not really a vibe. So whoever was working that day, I don't know. Hope your day got better, babe. Anyway, our day did get better because then we went back and rode Thunderation some more. Actually, only once more.
We rode Outlaw Run some more too.
Oh, we did Outlaw Run some more.
And we rode Time Travelers some more. We went around and did re-rides on everything except
for Fire in the Hole.
And Wildfire, yeah.
So I will say we got lucky with Thunderation because they kept making these announcements everywhere like, oh, like lightning has been sighted near the city.
Yeah.
You know, because it's all themed to being in the city. So they refer to themselves and announce it as the city. So then they kept saying that, and we're on Thunderation, and I thought Alex wanted to ride the very back, but Alex did not want to ride the very back. I don't like the very back because the leg room. I was like, oh, let's ride the very back because I thought he wanted to get on the next train and ride the very back.
And I was so mad at you.
And he was like so angry, and he was like,
I was mad at you because like the leg room was bad and you were just going to complain the whole time.
I didn't complain the whole time. And then guess what? We get back to the station. We didn't get off the train yet.
Yeah.
Literally, like, we're rolling to the station, and the lady on the PA is like, all right, guys, whoever's on this train right now, you guys got lucky because you're our last train because we're down for Thunder. And then
Sean and I left.
You were already planning on leaving after that ride. So I was like, well, if we would have waited for the next train to like not sit in the back row because we wanted more leg room, we would have not gone our final ride on the Thunderation.
I was very grateful.
So we did get our final ride on Thunderation.
You were
regardless, we rode it, of course, but that was going to be the final ride. And then we were going to bounce and drive to St. Louis. So that all worked out.
It was rough. It was rough sitting in the back, up the back.
Yeah, it's very
it was so worth it. But it was also like, all right, it's time. Goodbye. Like it was time for her to pack it in.
No, what do you think the park needs next? What do you think? I mean,
I don't know. There's a lot of exciting things on the horizon for this park because there's several areas of redevelopment that are kind of being addressed at the same time. You have Thunderation, which is inevitably going to be transformed either physically or symbolically into something else, something major. And they're going to reuse all that infrastructure for another coaster or something like that.
Yeah, I do think they're going to use the exact station and everything. Yeah. Shoes up a little bit.
And then they have the new coaster, obviously, that they're building. American Plunge, it's a miracle that American Plunge, I mean, of course they kept it because it's a great ride. And like Herschend cares a lot about that kind of stuff. But they put a lot of money into preserving American Plunge because the entire indoor portion of American Plunge, which is a pretty large portion of it, had to be like demolished and rebuilt. It's basically most of American Plunge, that whole indoor section, you're actually in the basement level of the new construction zone that is being done. And there's a break. There's 2 tunnels and a little outdoor portion in between. And when you're in the outdoor portion, kind of sunken in the ground, it's not as obvious. But when you're looking down at it from Powder Keg, you realize that it's surrounded by construction on all sides. You get little glimpses of the construction zone from down in the flume, but it's not quite as obvious as it is from up high. And it's amazing that they went through the trouble to preserve that ride. And it's also amazing that it's even open because they're doing like active construction work on all sides of this flume that people are allowed to ride on. So those were great rides on American Plunge and Powder Keg. And so they've got that new coaster that should be announced any day now. And then there's the old Fire in the Hole, which is still sitting there. And like the building is still there for aesthetic purposes, but it's also walled off in a way that looks semi-permanent. It doesn't look like it's going to be like that forever, but it looks nice enough that they could leave it that way for a couple of years. And I had imagined them making quick work of it. Like I had pictured the whole reason, well, not the whole reason, but a reason why they did a new Fire in the Hole from the ground up was to move it to a more convenient location so that they could blow up the old building and put a midway through it and like make a midway loop connecting back around to like Outlaw Run. But there's just so much space. There's so much potential. So that's definitely going to, they didn't do that for nothing. There's going to be a major redevelopment of the plot that was formerly occupied by Fire in the Hole. I mean, it's so central to the park. It really still kind of feels like the center of the park where that ride was. Now there's nothing in there. So 3 major areas of development for the park, at least, all of which either will or potentially could have a coaster. So very exciting.
With Thunderation leaving, I definitely think that they need to have a new family coaster. And I think something like Big Bear Mountain, but their version of it, going down the side of a hill into the forest and whatever exploration theme I would attach to that personally, I think would be a good fit. And I have a suspicion that that's going to be kind of what they're doing. Maybe it's going to be Mac 1. Is it confirmed? I don't even know who's going to make it. Maybe it's going to be Gerstlauer. Who knows?
Mac would be my first guess. I could see them doing basically a family Mac launch coaster. They already have 2 launch coasters that are technically you could take your kids on it, but like Powder Keg and especially Time Traveler are pretty wild. Like they're not Powder Keg more so than Time Traveler is family coded, but Powder Keg is still intense.
Yeah,
like that is still a very intense positive G's and lateral G's and negative G's.
Because when I think of the 2 parks, like Soda City and Dollywood, I think of Soda City is more like a thrill park. I think, especially nowadays, that Outlaw Run is more intense than Lightning Rod, and I do think that having Wildfire is a bigger, probably ballsier ride than having Tennessee Tornado. Nothing wrong with Tennessee Tornado. I love Tennessee Tornado, but Wildfire is still like the B&M version of that. And then you also have Time Traveler, which there's not much to include. I guess they have Wild Eagle, but I still in my head kind of think of like Dollywood has a larger family coaster ratio.
Yes,
but I also seem to think that is a success story for that park. Dollywood having so many family coasters is like, they keep adding on more family coasters because it just works.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that's going to be the next move. Silver City is going to do a couple more family coasters. Clearly, Fire in the Hole is working because that was by far the longest lineup.
Dollywood has definitely diluted their lineup with a much more family coaster slant. Because, but it's a great lineup. They've got Fire Chaser Express. They've got Big Bear Mountain, Dragon Flyer. Like, it's a nice Thunderhead. Like, there's a nice vibe. There's a nice collection of pretty family appropriate rides. Lightning Rod is sort of kind of on the family spec. They really only have like 3 rides that I wouldn't consider to be family coasters, which are the loopers. Silver Dollar City also has 3 coasters that are intense and intimidating enough that you could say, no, this isn't really a family ride, except that Silver Dollar City has a much smaller overall lineup. So their big 3 make up a larger percentage of Silver Dollar City's coaster lineup than Dollywood's big 3. So I think, family coaster is inevitable. A couple of them probably. I think the next 2 coasters Silver Dollar City does will be, because right now they're about to have a net loss of family coasters. Thunderation is the most like unabashedly family friendly of the coasters at the park, of like a traditional coaster. So they're going to lose that, and they're going to need to replace it. And they could probably already use another family coaster on top of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, I heard rumors of it being like potentially like a hypercoaster to the forest coming. I don't know if you've heard the same rumors.
Mm-hmm.
I would also think that's a really good fit. Again, in a way, I think that on paper, the hypercoaster sounds very thrilling, but if Mako, for example, is any example, I think a hypercoaster is perfectly family friendly also these days. So same thing with stuff like Mamba. I mean, you see so many kids riding this stuff.
As long as you can keep the height requirement down.
So I mean, I wouldn't be super against maybe like kind of like a mixed ride. To me, Time Traveler, Park are great examples. Like, they are kind of thrilling on paper, but they are also approachable. I would love to see something like that, but maybe like with a hyper or something. I would be completely down for it. But as of right now, I do think family is going to be the focus.
I think a family, now that they've done Flying Fox at Kentucky Kingdom and Dragonflyer at Dollywood, I think a Vekoma family invert is in the future for Silver Dollar City. I think it's like inevitable, especially since they don't have an invert of any kind. Dollywood and Kentucky Kingdom also both don't have inverted coasters aside from these family Vekoma inverts. And like, just like a lot of Silver Dollar City's rides, a custom version of something like this would just lend itself so beautifully. They could do it. They could put it anywhere and it would work.
Yeah.
There's so much potential. So maybe that's something that they would do like further back, like in the old Fire in the Hole spot, perhaps. If there was one type of coaster beyond like a replacement mine train style coaster that to me felt like, okay, this is what Silver Dollar City could use next, a family invert for sure. Or just an invert in general. I would also love to see a suspended, an STC.
Yeah, I would say, actually, I would rather see that, because I felt like
I definitely would.
Because I feel like the capacity is not as good on the family ones. And Silver Dollar City, even though it's not nearly as busy as Dollywood, I still feel like it does need a little bit of capacity, because even if it gets even slightly busy there, stuff gets busy quick. Like Wildfire's a great example.
I would want to see
Wildfire, that was kind of a nightmare. So
yeah, a 2-train Vekoma invert, either a family invert or a suspended thrill coaster. Although I don't think it's as likely that they would do another like looping coaster. But maybe they know what they need. They know what people like. They have their hand is really on the pulse of what works for them, because they've done some things that were kind of like when they did Mystic River Falls. I remember being so surprised that they would take their existing Rapids ride, which was perfectly fine, and replace it with a new Rapids ride that has like an elevator and a drop. And it's like, but that was a huge hit. It is so popular. That ride is immensely successful. It is one of the 2. They've got a couple rides that like you can't use, or like you can only use at like one one per day. The Trailblazer.
Oh, I don't remember.
Or like, they have the Trailblazer, which is their fast pass system, comes in like 3 tiers. And the top tier, like the platinum tier, is the only one that includes Fire in the Hole and Mystic River Falls. Those are the 2 rides that are like the X2 Max Force of this park. The Rapids ride and the Dark ride. Interestingly enough. But they're family rides. And they have pretty high capacity, but it's no match for their demand.
Also, I just think if families just, you know, make way more money on families, they would move slower. They no, like let's face it, right? They move slower. There is like a party of like 10 because it's like it's grandma, grandpa, and like daughter, whatever, like
grandpa,
you know, and like a bunch of kids, and then that's gonna be good for admission. Everyone needs to eat.
Yeah,
or, you know, like they're no more gonna move fast because they gotta stop for the restroom in 5 minutes. It's perfect. You know, like you need 2 days to the park, so you need a 2-day ticket for a family of 10 that are all, you know, going to Silver Dollar City. Like it's cute, and it's the perfect audience, and it keeps things kind of mellow. You know, it keeps from turning into a Six Flags. You know, get what I'm saying? Like, I kind of think that's just what they're going for anyway.
Yeah.
But overall, we had a really good visit, and it was mostly families. I don't think I saw maybe like 1 or 2 other coasts.
Yeah, periodically you'd see a few, but yeah, there was a reason why the line for like Outlaw Run was like, we never waited for Outlaw Run. Time Traveler
even at one train
was pretty quick. Even Wildfire, even with the time saver Trailblazer Pass people, it was still a pretty quick experience. And then you have Fire in the Hole, which was like 40 minutes, 45 minutes all day. There's a lot for them to consider going forward with their next expansion.
And I will say, walk around the park, the Grand Exposition, which is the original kiddie area, and then the Fireman's Landing at the other kiddie area. I mean, those sort of busiest areas of the park.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure we're going to slowly see Silver Dollar City slide into more of like a Dollywood kind of park, except it's going to not be themed to all the colorful Dolly stuff.
The aesthetic will be more
and it's going to be much more, cohesive still, which I do prefer that in the end of the day.
Dollywood's got their Country Fair area and Wildwood Grove. Silver Dollar City's got the Grand Exposition and the Fireman's Landing area.
And we are overdue to go back to Dollywood. We're waiting for a Night Flight Expedition, which we'll see when that's open. But I look forward to comparing the parks again. We did that years ago.
Maybe that's the kind of thing that they'll replace the old Fire in the Hole spot with.
I wouldn't be surprised with this. I wouldn't be surprised.
Like another next-gen dark ride coaster hybrid thing. Silver Dollar City and Dollywood have always riffed off of each other to a fault. They've never really copied each other, but they've always been kind of similar. Yeah. So whatever one park does, you won't see the exact same ride come to the other park, but you will see something inspired by it.
I mean, yeah, but think about it. What is it? Fire in a Hole, and then I guess Blazing Fury was originally also Fire in a Hole at Dollywood. And then, of course, you've got both of their large flumes. One was American Plunger, was Daredevil Falls. Very similar in its theme. One, of course, is much bigger.
Yeah.
Of course, they had,
at one point,
the 2 RMCs.
The 2 Aero Mine trains.
You have the 2 Aero Mine trains. You have Tennessee Tornado is definitely like the Wildfire equivalent. So there's always, I feel like they know if something's successful, they'll just do another version of it that's kind of inspired. At another park. And Night Flight Expedition is really popular. I'm sure we'll see it once in a while at Silver Dollar City. I think it'd be a great thing, especially considering that the Ozarks are like covered in these caves, right? Like it's ads from everywhere, like caverns. The caverns underneath the park themselves. Yeah. I'm sure they could do super cool thing about like cavern exploration.
Oh yeah,
you know, that turns into some other magical thing. I'm sure they could do it.
Yeah. Based on the reception of the new Fire in the Hole, I think anything that they did that was even remotely similar to Fire in the Hole would be equally popular.
Yeah, I agree. And well, overall, we had a great visit. Always a good time in Silver Dollar City.
Yeah.
This time, I don't know if I'm rushing to go back because there's so many water parks we're like trying to get to soon. So maybe it'll be like a year or 2, unless they're built something really spectacular I need to get to. Yeah. I do love the park, so I'm never not down. Like if it fits in, it fits in.
Next year, depending on the timeline for the coaster, I mean, they're already full steam ahead with the new coaster, and it's the middle of the summer. So assuming that whatever they build is going to be like reliable.
It's not even officially summer yet.
Yeah.
For another couple
It's
days.
reliable enough that we could plan a trip around riding. It's hard to plan trips around new coasters because I feel like if there's one true constant in the world, it's that prototype coasters, new coasters always need time to get their act together. So a lot of times we catch coasters on their second year, and whatever Silver Dollar City builds will kind of determine what our plan of action is. If it's a Vekoma or something, then we can probably show up opening year. If it's an Intamin, maybe year 2. Mac rides could go either way. So very curious to see.
Either way, I expect it to be a 5-star ride.
Yeah.
And speaking of 5 stars, you should leave us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whichever podcast streaming platform you're currently listening to. And that would really help us out. If you're on Apple, maybe even type a cute little story about how much you love listening to Coast Kings. And we'll catch you guys real soon next week on an Iowa episode. Then, of course, we're going to have to talk about Knott's Berry Farm and Sickers Magic Mountain because that's where we're at right now. And then Sickers St. Louis, both are fun. And then a bunch of China.
Mm-hmm.
Much coming up. And actually, real quick, before I finish this episode, we just recently launched, our last previous episode, is the China theme park trip planning for dummies. And it is a deep dive into every step of the thing you need to have to plan your China trip, from like your payment apps to how you get your train tickets to pockets of theme parks to, literally anything you can think of. We put in an episode, Sven and I, we did a deep dive. There's a map of all the parks we've been to in China. And we got lots of really, really positive feedback on that episode. People that are genuinely interested in going to China or like really want to know what they need to do because they're so overwhelmed. We got a couple of really, really kind messages, even today, a couple. So we really appreciate everyone that's been listening and giving us such positive feedback. If you haven't listened to it yet, give it a listen. I'm really hoping it's like a tool that people will pass to each other to kind of prepare for their own China trips. So I'm proud of the episodes. I wanted to throw it out there real quick because, of course, it's been about a week of it being live now. So just now are we really starting to see good feedback, and I'm glad it turned out good. So listen to that, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode next week. Bye.
And happy 30th birthday.
Oh, that's right.
You.
Thank you. I turned 30 on Viper. I turned 30 in the airplane. But yes, we did go on this little trip for our birthday. So
yes.
Thanks, dude. All right. Bye.
Bye.